Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swing and a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Walk the ball. Reyes Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by my go-to prospect and Major League Baseball draft guy, Justin Lorber, a.k.a. Future Dodgers, if you follow him on social media. Justin, thanks for being here. I was just reading, actually, recently about how the Dodgers' success has been because they are able to go and get players that they shouldn't be able to. The system is designed to make it so that when the Dodgers pick at the very end of every round in the draft, they're not supposed to be able to go and get amazing prospects, and yet here we are talking about the 2021 draft, which is not even 12 months old, and it feels like they have defied the odds once again. Is that a fair assessment of this group?
I think so far it looks really good. There isn't a player that stands out to me looking at the guys that they got where I go, oh, well, there's no way they should have got him there. Especially looking back, putting myself in the mindset that I was last July. There's no like, oh, well, this guy was an obvious steal and everyone should have seen this coming. But so far, things look pretty good, and it looks like, well, Dodgers didn't again. A little bit. We don't have too much yet.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right, is rarely do the Dodgers have a guy drop to them that everybody's like, this guy's going to be amazing. He would have been amazing everywhere. It's just somehow he landed with the Dodgers. It always seems like there's some guy who's got one flaw here or one flaw there, and I'm not going to say all of the time because there are guys like Jaron Kendall who they just don't seem to ever figure out the one flaw, but then sometimes they do, and you land a guy in whether it's at pick 29 that if everybody knew that flaw wasn't going to be there, probably goes 15 picks higher, or a guy we're going to talk about in the fourth round who you actually had as the best pitching prospect of this group heading into the season. But let's start at the top. Maddox Bruns, left-handed pitcher out of high school. The Dodgers get him in the 29th pick in the first round. What have you seen from Bruns so far this season that has you kind of excited about the trajectory of his career?
So Bruns' calling card in the draft was great stuff. Maybe the best stuff from any high school pitcher in the draft. Maybe the best stuff from any high school lefty in the draft. But had a lot of trouble. There wasn't projected to be a first-round pick, really. I think at the time, I don't know of any major publication who had him, in the first round, maybe close to it, but not like 20 to 30 range. And the Dodgers took him, and last summer he pitched a little bit in the Arizona Summer League, mostly showing the same stuff. But so far, the stuff has been there. The mid-90s ball carry at the top of the zone, 2 breaking balls, a big curveball, and a tighter slider. But the command has improved. The excessive walks have not really been there. And, granted, this is against low A hitters who are going to have trouble hitting a guy with that kind of stuff. But so far, mostly so good in terms of if we can fix this guy's command, this pitch is going to look like a steal. Looks like they're at least on that track so far.
Do you think this year he spends the entirety of the year at low A?
If I did guess, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the rankings. I mean, just looking at MLB.com, he was ranked the 49th best prospect heading into the draft according to the list I'm looking at. And you look at the Dodgers had 4 guys that were ranked. I don't know if this is the top 250 or the top 300. They picked 4 players that were on that list. Every single one of them, they picked ahead of the ranking. So Peter Hubeck, their second round pick, was picked number 101. Excuse me, their second pick, third round pick. He was pick 101, ranked 108. Nick Nastrini was pick 131, ranking number 248, and then Ben Kasparius was pick 162, ranking 169. So one of the guys I just mentioned, Nick Nastrini, is a guy that you've been high on. He's a guy that you had ranked higher than Maddox Bruns heading into the season. What is it about Nastrini that you like, and what have you seen from him this year that maybe makes you feel either better or worse about that decision?
So Nastrini had some very similar question marks with Bruns as, great stuff. Can he throw strikes? And those questions have been answered to a slightly lesser degree than Bruns, but the stuff has been there. It's been a really good fastball. He's been majority slider when I've watched him in terms of the secondary pitch, but he does have a changeup. He does have a curveball that metrically both grade out pretty well. I'd like to see him, use a little more of his repertoire as, the summer gets longer and he goes deeper into starts, but we'll have to see. But again, so far, I don't really have too much to complain about with that ranking.
Before we get into sort of the day 3 stuff, which is I know where you've done a ton of sort of work in finding guys that you actually feel like the Dodgers got steals, is there anybody else from day 1 or day 2 that we haven't mentioned that you think, hey, we should at least give this guy a shout out because the early returns are promising?
Yeah, if there's a guy who looks better than he did at the time of the draft, it's Emmett Sheehan, the Dodgers' 6th round pick, who looked great last summer. Got even a promotion to high A, through a couple outings in Arizona, then went to low A, and then went to high A, and went back to high A this year, made 1 start, has been on the injured list ever since with an undisclosed injury. So hopefully he can get back soon because he looked like a guy who was very much defying his draft position at the end of the 6th round.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's get to day 3. These are picks 11 through 20 for the Dodgers. It sounds like there's a couple guys in that group that you sort of have grown a liking to. Who on that group do you like?
So I'm going to talk about 3 relievers, and those guys are Ronin, Kopp, Leisure, and Madison Jeffrey. And those are the Dodgers' 12th, 14th, and 15th round picks, respectively. And those guys have all shown just really great stuff, great fastballs, mid to upper 90s fastballs with good traits and a breaking ball. The fastballs there for, I think, each of them are going to be the calling card. Ronin Kopp especially, he's 19, he's like 6'7", and throws, mid to upper 90s with his fastball as a lefty. Those guys don't just grow on trees. You can't just, round in any draft. So the fact that they were able to get him and he looks good so far, I think he's exciting. And then Damon Keith, their 18th round pick, and the only hitter they signed from the draft. They only two hitters, and only one of them signed. He's really good so far. Well, he's been one of the best offensive performers across the Dodgers minor league system over the last month. He's shown power, he's shown speed, decent exit velocity guy who can play center field. I think he's moved around a bit in Rancho because they have outfielders. Another guy to monitor in this draft class.
The first 3 you mentioned, you think all those project as relief pitchers? Is that what you said?
Yes, and that's how they've been using them so far. Although they have been, going in some multi-inning outings, although a lot of relievers do that at the minor league levels, especially with the Dodgers. Then, when they get to the major league level, they might do that less.
Yeah. This might be a silly question. It's the last one. I'll get you out of here on this one. How do the Dodgers keep doing this? Because at this point, it's hard to say it's player development because it's not like they've had them in the system for 18 months or 2 years and say, oh, they ironed all these things out. Sure, there's some stuff that they can do quickly, but to find a few guys, I mean, nobody finds major leaguers. And I'm not saying any of these guys are going to be major leaguers, but the odds of finding a major leaguer in rounds 11 through 20 or beyond are so minuscule. And yet, for them to have found guys that, at least, again, we're a long ways away from the major leagues here, but the early returns are promising. That is abnormal. What is it? Are they just better at scouting? How do they keep finding guys like that?
So if I had to put it down to one thing, it's what teams value. And I'm going to talk mostly about pitching because the Dodgers went all pitching except for Damon Keith last year, and I think that's the most, different teams are going to value different things. They might value strike throwers who are very athletic and, hope that they develop stuff. They might value just purely stuff, guys with good breaking balls, guys who can, throw a good changeup. What the Dodgers value, look at this most recent class, it's fastball traits. And it's fastball traits, guys who can throw fastballs in the zone and get swings and misses. And that's kind of where we've been heading to the major league level. And if you look at the Dodgers class, it doesn't really seem to think like it seem like they think that is going away anytime soon based on how they drafted. Because they've drafted guys with good fastball traits who can get swings and misses at the top of the zone and in the zone, largely four-seam fastballs, a lot of them with low release points. I think for a lot of people, the concept of vertical approach angle might be foreign to them. I would encourage them to read up on it because it would explain some of what they're doing here with some of these guys, not all of them, but some of them. And different teams just value things differently. The Dodgers have placed the value on high velocity fastballs with good traits, and those are the guys that they've went after.
Was that unique to 2021, or do you feel like that's something they've been trending towards in 1920 as well?
I think trending towards,
okay,
but not necessarily as. I don't want to say
every single pitcher they picked like they did this year, kind of a thing.
It's not like every pitcher has just amazing fastball traits, but for the most part, all of these guys, have that in common. And I remember talking to someone, like right after the draft, like the Dodgers are going after all these guys with good fastball traits. Like they clearly see something like a trend, and they're just going after it. And I think it's something that the Giants, to a degree, went after. So you have two really smart teams who are identifying this trait that they see as valuable in pitchers, and then drafting a ton of pitchers who fit that bill.
Yeah.
To me, that looks like something to follow.
Okay. Well, there you go. Early returns on the 2021 draft, as usual. Good for the Dodgers. Justin, just a couple months as we sit here away from the 2022 draft. You getting some prep in? You feeling good?
Yeah, I posted my first draft big board. I think it might have been like a week and a half ago. So feel free to check that out. Very early at this point. Still a lot of time. Things can change, but college season is wrapping up. High school season is wrapping up, and pretty soon it'll be draft season.
Okay, well, we're going to have to get you back in. We'll talk about the pre-stuff, and then as usual, we'll probably have you right after the first few days of the draft getting your thoughts on how the Dodgers have done in that area as well. That's Justin Lorber. As always, FutureDodgers.com, at FutureDodgers on social media as well. Justin, we appreciate you joining us. Folks watching, thank you. DodgerBlue.com, DodgerBlue1958 for the latest. If you're a podcast person, shows like this are now available on our podcast feed. DodgerHeads, that's either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, I believe, on Google as well. So please subscribe, rate, and review there as well. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time.